Welcome to our fourth grade textbook for social studies. It is titled United States Studies, and we're going to focus on Chapter 1. The title of Chapter 1 is What Makes the United States Special? Okay, so our objective for Chapter 1 is I can identify questions geographers ask in examining the United States. So for the first section, Section 1, the title for that is What is Geography? And we have two questions that are going to guide our inquiry. Number one, how do geographers study the United States? And number two, what natural and human characteristics are significant in the United States? Something that I want to focus on right now is the terms, places, and people. So over here on the left side, it says geography, the study of the earth and how we, the people who live there, interact with it. Hemisphere, a region created when the earth is divided in half. Equator, an imaginary line going across the center of the earth. Prime meridian, an imaginary line going across the center of the earth. GPS, a navigation system that allows people to determine their exact location. GIS, a geographic information system, is a system designed to capture, store, manipulate, analyze, manage, and present all types of geographic data. So in third grade, you learned about the geography of the state of Michigan. You may have studied the geography of Michigan by learning about what makes Michigan special. This year, in studying the geography of the United States, you will explore a similar question. It is centered around what makes the country in which we live special. Before we go any further, let's take a moment to answer this question in the blue box below. What is geography? You may remember that geography is the study of the earth and how we, the people who live there, interact with it. In studying the earth, geographers ask questions. Many of these questions deal with where. One of the first questions that a geographer may ask in studying a place is, where is it? What tools do they use? Geographers study the world using a variety of tools. Take a look at this map of the world. Most of the United States is contained within the circled area on the map. Using simply this map, how might you describe where the United States is located? The map on the previous page helps us locate the United States on the continent of North America. This next map shows the United States but does not contain the circle. The line drawn across the map represents the equator. Using this map, how might you describe where the United States is? According to this map, we bring in another imaginary line, the Tropic of Cancer. Using this map, how might your definition of where the United States is located change? The United States of America is located in the continent of North America, but we can look even further than that. The US is located in two of Earth's four hemispheres. Hemispheres are regions created when the Earth is divided in half. The northern and southern hemispheres are created when the Earth is divided using the equator, an imaginary latitude line. This is the green line on the map above. The US is in the northern hemisphere. The eastern and western hemispheres are created when the Earth is divided by the prime meridian, the imaginary longitude line that divides the Earth. This is the pink line above. The US is in the western hemisphere. All right, so let's look at the first interactive, the global grid. Latitude and longitude, the global grid. Here's a sphere. Let's pretend this represents our planet, the Earth. To help people determine where they are on the planet, we create a series of imaginary lines. These lines of latitude and longitude create something called the global grid. What does that look like? We are going to create a very simple grid, but these can become very complex. The first line we're going to draw is right across the center of our circle. The line represents the equator. Now we're going to add two more lines to this. They are evenly spaced above and below the equator. And two more are drawn above that. We have now sliced the globe into several different chunks. The orange dot above represents a place on the Earth. We want to tell someone where we live using the grid system. We can tell them that we live right on the equator at 0 degrees. There is a lot of space in between, however. How do we help narrow in where exactly we are? We can also draw lines the opposite way to help us build our global grid. We can also draw lines the opposite way to help us figure that out. So let's keep going. As we slice the Earth this way, a new system of coordinates begins to appear. How would you tell someone where to locate you on the global grid right now? To make the grid more complicated, you can shrink the numbers. 30 degrees is still located at the same place, but on this one, we divide things by 15s rather than 30s. On the map above, you will see lines going east and west, which are called latitude lines. As you learned in the interactive on the previous page, you can use the degrees, which are numbers, on each line of longitude and latitude to find exact locations. Other tools used by geographers. A map is a common tool that geographers use in studying the Earth. A map is a great tool for showing information about a geographic area. Maps can represent a place such as a neighborhood, a town, a country, or the world overall. However, a map is sometimes not the best tool for studying the Earth because of its shape. While it's easy to carry a map around, ask your parents how they got from place to place before their smartphones could tell them where to go. A map distorts an image. A good way to think about this is to think about the shape of our planet. Is it flat? No. The Earth is a sphere. If you were to take another sphere-like object, think of an orange, and draw a map of the world on it, you'd have a great representation of the planet we live on. What happens when you peel the orange, however? You end up with something that is much harder to use. A globe is a spherical representation of the Earth. Okay, let's look at Interactive 1.2, Peel an Orange. You can also click along too. A globe is a spherical representation of the Earth and is much more accurate. Does your classroom have a globe? Would a globe be useful if you were taking a road trip? Why or why not? Geographers also use aerial photography and satellite imagery to study the Earth. The map in the upper right-hand corner of this page is an aerial photograph of the United States. This one right here where my mouse is hovering over. This one was captured by a satellite in space. The gold on the map shows major centers of population. As you look at this map, what questions might you come up with? Have you ever been on a long road trip? When your grandparents were kids, they probably relied heavily on a map to travel from place to place. Your parents may have as well. I know I have before the whole smartphones. As we have entered the information age, they probably got from place to place using a GPS device. It also probably came on their smartphones. GPS stands for Global Positioning System, and it makes use of satellites in orbit to collect information about where a user is on Earth. Let's stop and think. How might a geographer use a GPS device? Another tool geographers use to study a location is called GIS, Geographic Information System. A GIS utilizes software and hardware to collect and display data. It can help you display forms of useful information for geographers to explore. It is a computerized combination of map making, data about places, and computer technology. Someone using a GIS device is able to create a representation of places by layering information on top of the map and allowing people to manipulate information. Finally, you might not think of things like charts, tables, stories, and even people as being a useful tool that geographers use to study the Earth. Even with all the information gathered from the tools we've already explored, sometimes more knowledge is needed. Geographers may look at historical data, interview people who were at a place a long time ago, and even read stories from the past to help study a place. All right, here we are looking at Interactive 1.3 Simple GIS. It says, what is a geographic information system? What is a geographic information system? A GIS can be very complex. We are going to help you see what a GIS is by looking at a very, very simple one regarding the United States of America. GIS is a way to show data on top of a map so that geographers can make meaning of a place. The map you will see first does not have the Great Lakes labeled. To begin, close the window using the X above and add the Great Lakes layer to find Michigan on this map. All right, so I see a green arrow over here pointing towards Great Lakes. It says, where is Michigan? Click here. So let's click. What just happened to the map? Information was added to it which brought up the state of Michigan. Because Michigan is made up of two peninsulas, adding the lakes added the state to the map. What if a geographer wanted to learn more about water in the United States overall? Close this window and press the button for rivers to add more information to this map. So I see another green arrow and it says add rivers, click here. So let's click on the second tab, which says rivers. Wow. Now our map of the United States has changed. So let's see what this box says. Another lay has just been added to this map. Now you can see some of the major rivers in the United States. Now let's really see how a GIS can be useful by adding some extra data to it. Close this window with the X above and add population to the mix. So I'm thinking if I click on this one where the green arrow is pointing to the population tab, that this map that we have with the rivers and the Great Lakes will change. So let's see, that's my prediction. Wow. So it says here above the box, each dot represents 500,000 people in the general area. Another layer was just added to this map. Now you can see some of the major population centers are in the United States. These are the areas where a lot of people live. With information like this, geographers are able to visually see data and come to a conclusion. Before closing this widget and looking at where a good number of the dots are, do you notice any patterns about where people in the United States live? So let's just kind of take a look at the United States and think about where do you see all those dots? Is it centralized in one location? Is it spread out? Are there resources nearby? So I want you guys to take a couple of minutes to kind of reflect and think about that. The 5 themes of geography. Geographers came up with an educational tool to help students explore geography. This tool is known as the 5 themes of geography. The 5 themes are location, place, region, movement, and human environment interaction. Every section of this chapter will show you more about each theme and the question or questions that may help explain it. This section dealt with the first theme, location. Looking at this blue box, we have some questions in here. So let's look at the first one. It says location. Where is it? Place. What is it like there? Region. How might common geographic characteristics help people understand a place? Movement. How is this place connected to other places? Human environmental interaction. How do people interact with the environment? So these questions go along with the 5 themes of geography.